Something that we talked about in my last video was wire wrapping beads. And we made little dangles for our stackable earrings in orange. And I wanted to show you today how I did the wire wrapping. So what I've got here are the Lucerna bicones that I used in the dangle. And then I've just got a piece of silver wire. Now this wire is 24 gauge, and I like working with the 24 gauge because it's just the right width for what I want to wrap my bead around with. I don't know if you're familiar with gauges of wire, but the lower the number, the thicker the gauge. So for instance, I've got this copper wire over here, and this is 20 gauge. And you can see how much thicker it is than the silver. Maybe if I can hold it right. So 20 gauge would be too big for the delicate small beads. So we're using a 24. And I cut about 4 inches. We won't use this much, but I have fingers that have a mind of their own. So I like to use extra material so that I have enough to hold on to. As far as tools, I've got my wire cutters here to cut the piece of wire that I used, heavy duty, because I ruin all my small ones. I've got a pair of these flat pliers that have this material right here that straightens out the wire, and it's really good to grip with. So I'm going to use these when I tie a knot at the bottom of my wires, so my bead will sit on top of that. I've got my round nose pliers so that I can do the loop, make the loop with those. I've got some needle nose flat type pliers. I'm not very good with the names. I guess I should probably familiarize myself, but these are needle nose and they have like a flat tip. So these are really good for tucking in the small pieces of wire that poke out after you're done doing the wrapping. And then I have some bent nose pliers as well. These help when your wire gets a little bit shorter and your fingers can't get in there. These help you wrap the wire if you need them around so that you don't have to hurt yourself. So right now, the first thing I want to do is I want to make the knot at the bottom of this wire so that my bead will sit really nicely. And I learned this, there's probably other techniques. So this is just the way that I learned. I take the wire at the very tip of my round nose pliers and I'm turning all the way around. And then you see how the tip of the wire is right there, so we are winding underneath that, and we're going to go around a couple times. I'm just pulling while gripping with the pliers until it goes about 2.5 times around. So you can see that I have that wrapped like that. So then I take this off, and now I have like this little cylinder, right? I'm going to take my wire tip at the other end and put it through this hole that we made. Okay, so now we have like a little lasso. You take your straightening pliers and you put the wire through on one side so that this little cylinder sits on top. So you see how that is like that, and then the other side of it is over here. I'm going to take my bent nose pliers, or you can use any other kind of pliers that have a good grip, and you're going to pull until you get this really nice little knot. And when you take that off of there, now you have a knot at the end of your wire that is knotted to itself, so it won't come undone. We're going to take our bead and we're going to slide that onto the wire. and let it go all the way down. Now you can mash the end a little bit to make it a little bit more flat, but I really like the way that that's sitting. If you wrapped it around less times, it would be a little bit flatter. I just like to have that. It kind of brings like an artistic flair to the design, so it's not so seamless. I like rustic type looks, but everybody has their own preference, so whatever you enjoy doing the most. Then I'm going to come back in with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to grip right there up against the bead, okay? And then you're going to bend the wire one way like this. So there's that. You're going to move your round nose pliers so you're going like this. Now you have a grip on that bend, and you're going to take your wire and you're going to bring it back around towards you. So now you have something like this, okay, a little hook. You're going to remove your round nose pliers again, and you're going to reinsert them so that you can take the wire like this, and see there's a little piece right here in the middle between the pliers and the bead. That's where you're going to do your wire wrapping. You're going to take it around and just go like this 3 or 4 times, and now you have this really cute little lasso type look. Okay, now I do need to use my smaller flush cutter. I didn't show you this in the beginning. These are flush cutter pliers, and they're good for getting right up into close to your design. You want to get as close as possible to snip that off, and now you have this little piece right here. That's when you take your needle nose pliers and you just kind of grip it. And what we're going to do is we're going to tuck this little piece right here down so that it's not a pokey piece. I kind of like twist a little bit so that it hides into the twist. And you kind of keep mashing it until you do not have a pokey piece sticking out. So there's just a little tiny one right there. I'm going to try to mash that down like that. And now it won't get caught on anything. And that is how you do a simple wire wrap. Pretty cute, right? Let's do one more together. Now you could definitely use the rest of your wire. I'm going to save this for later. I don't want to struggle on camera with y'all, so I'm going to actually cut another piece of my 24 gauge silver wire about 4 inches. We're going to take our round nose and get a good grip. Start turning, and you kind of want to pull the wire down a little bit as you turn so that that top piece is up here, and when you wind it, you're going underneath. And you can go 2 or 3 times. Take that off. Sometimes I also like to take my pliers and kind of mash the coil, not hard because I don't want it to get all mangled, but just to push it all back together. I'm going to take my wire and go through that hole that we made like this, making a little lasso. Okay. Get our straightening pliers and put the knot right up against the wall of those pliers. And then on the other side, we're going to take a pair of pliers and pull it through so that it makes a little knot. Okay. We can mash it a little bit to make it flatter, push it in a little bit if we need to, whatever you need to do. I like just the rustic look of however it turns out. This one is a little bit off center, but that's okay because the bead sits right on top of it. I can get it through. I'm going to have to snip that part right there. Always something. Okay. Put the bead through. Slide it down to our knot. You can always mash it up against the bead, which is what I've done. So that's really cute. We're going to take our needle nose, our round nose pliers, and grip right down at the bottom of, or at the top of the bead, right on it. We're going to bend it out, move our pliers up, bend it back towards us, reposition the pliers so that the wire sits on the bottom part, bring it around the back, and wrap it around. 1, 2, 3, almost 4. And now you've got the little lasso. Take your flush, I always call them flush cutters. I apologize. Flush cutters. Snip right up there against as far as you can go towards the bead. And you see how it's got that little pokey bit sticking out? We're going to take our needle nose and we're just going to mash it in and kind of just go all the way around. Sometimes I like to give it a little spin. And there is no more pokey bit. And then sometimes if your little loop is a little wonky, you can take your pliers and just kind of squeeze it like that. And it will make it flat. And that, my friends, is how I did my bead wrap. Thank you for coming to the bead table, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, y'all.